The spaceship descended slowly, a vast, silent shadow against the crimson sky. Panic gripped the city. People ran, screaming, or huddled in fear, their faces pale and upturned. But some of us stood transfixed, watching as the alien vessel settled onto the earth with a soft, shuddering thud. A hush fell, eerie and absolute, broken only by the distant wail of sirens. We waited. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Then a section of the ship shimmered, dissolved, and a ramp extended soundlessly to the ground. A figure appeared at the top of the ramp, tall and slender, its form obscured by the swirling mist that clung to its body. It descended slowly, each step measured and deliberate. As it reached the bottom, the mist parted, revealing a being unlike anything we had ever seen. "We have been watching you," it said, its voice a low melodic hum, "observing your species, your habits, your failings." A collective gasp ran through the crowd. Fear mingled with anger. "How dare this creature, this invader, judge us?" The alien continued, its voice tinged with a strange sadness. "You are a species consumed by darkness. You lie, you cheat, you steal. You wage war on each other, destroying yourselves and your planet for reasons you yourselves no longer understand. You are driven by greed, by envy, by a thirst for power that knows no bounds. You hoard resources, leaving your fellow beings to starve. You claim to love, yet you hate with equal passion."
A voice rose from the crowd, trembling but defiant. "What gives you the right to judge us?" the man demanded, his words echoing in the sudden silence. "We are not perfect, but we strive for something better. We have faith, we have hope."
The alien turned its large black eyes towards the speaker, its gaze intense, unwavering. "Faith?" it echoed, its voice a low hum that seemed to vibrate in the air.
"Our faith is not an illusion," a woman's voice rang out, clear and strong. She stepped forward, her chin held high, her eyes meeting the aliens without fear. "It is a source of strength, a beacon of hope in a world often shrouded in darkness."
The alien turned to face her, its expression unreadable. "And what of those who do not share your faith?" it asked, its voice devoid of judgment, merely curious. The crowd stirred uneasily, a wave of murmurs sweeping through the assembled humans. Some averted their eyes, shame flickering across their faces. Others met the alien's gaze with a defiance that bordered on hostility. "We are not perfect," a voice called out from the back of the crowd. "We are flawed, yes, but we are capable of great love, great sacrifice. We build, we create, we dream of a better tomorrow." "And yet," the alien countered, its voice a low hum that seemed to resonate in the air around them, "you destroy as readily as you create." The alien regarded the young man for a moment, its large black eyes seeming to peer into his very soul. "Hope is a fragile thing," it finally said, its voice soft, almost a whisper, easily extinguished by the winds of fear and despair. Silence descended upon the crowd, heavy and oppressive. The alien's words hung in the air, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked within the human heart. Doubts crept in, whispering insidious suggestions in their minds. Were they deluding themselves, clinging to a faith that was nothing more than a comforting lie? "You offer no answers," the woman who had spoken before said, her voice trembling slightly.
"You speak of darkness." A woman, her voice laden with the weariness of experience, stepped forward, a child clinging to her skirt. "Yet what of the light we bring into the world? What of our children? Is that not proof of our capacity for good?"
The alien turned its gaze upon the child, its expression unreadable. The child, small and innocent, met the alien's gaze with wide, curious eyes, unafraid. "Children are a reflection of their parents," the alien stated, its voice a low hum that seemed to vibrate the very air around them. "They learn from your example, inherit your flaws."
"We teach our children to be better than us," the woman countered, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hand. "We are not perfect parents," a man interjected, stepping forward to stand beside his wife, his arm a protective circle around her and their child. "And what tools do you give them?" the alien countered, its large black eyes fixed on the man. The tools of war, of greed, of self-preservation at any cost? Its gaze swept over the assembled humans, a silent indictment in their depths. Your history is a testament to your failures. S5. But we try. We learn from our mistakes, strive to provide our children with the tools they need to navigate this complex world. We are not perfect, the man admitted, his voice low, his gaze dropping to the child at his feet. But we strive to be better, for their sake if not for our own. Curious, the alien murmured, its voice barely audible. We do not burden our young with such expectations. A ripple of curiosity tinged with apprehension ran through the crowd.
But how do they learn? A voice called out from the crowd, tinged with disbelief. How do they grow without guidance, without the love and support of a family? They learn from experience, the alien replied, its voice echoing strangely in the sudden silence. They are free to forge their own paths, unburdened by the expectations of their predecessors. A pause then, a statement that hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. They do not repeat our mistakes.
Love, it echoed, the word sounding strange and unfamiliar in its mouth. A curious concept. You humans cling to it as both salvation and justification, yet it often lies at the root of your most destructive impulses. Love is not the cause of destruction, she countered, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hand. It is the abuse of love, the twisting of its power that leads to darkness. Explain, the alien commanded, its large black eyes boring into hers.
But why? The alien persisted, its voice a low hum that seemed to vibrate in the air around them. What purpose does this emotion serve? How does it benefit your species? Love connects us, he said, his voice filled with a quiet passion. It allows us to form bonds that transcend our differences, to see ourselves reflected in the eyes of another. Connections? The alien echoed, tilting its head slightly as if trying to grasp the concept. What need do you have for such entanglements?
And yet, the alien countered, its voice a low, rumbling sound that seemed to emanate from the depths of its being. These connections also lead to conflict, to possessiveness, to the very darkness you claim to abhor. Love is not without its challenges, he admitted, his voice raspy yet firm. But it is through these challenges that we grow, that we learn to temper our desires with compassion and understanding. We learn to compromise, he continued, his gaze holding the aliens with a steady intensity, to put the needs of others before our own, to find strength in unity rather than division. Love teaches us to look beyond ourselves, to see the bigger picture.
A collective shudder ran through the crowd, a wave of sorrow and pain rippling through the assembled humans. Each of them, in their own way, had experienced the sting of betrayal, the heart-wrenching agony of love lost or betrayed. The woman who had spoken earlier, her eyes filled with a deep sadness, stepped forward once more. "Yes," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "There will always be those who betray our trust, who break our hearts." She looked up at the alien, her expression resolute. "But we do not let their actions define us." The alien's words, soft as they were, seemed to echo in the vast silence that followed, bouncing between the towering buildings that lined the square and the infinite expanse of the star-dusted sky above. The humans, their faces a tapestry of apprehension, hope, and dawning understanding, shifted uneasily, the weight of the encounter pressing down on them like a physical thing. They had expected judgment, condemnation even, but this quiet acknowledgement of a shared experience, of the complex and often contradictory nature of existence itself, left them reeling. The woman who had spoken of love, her face etched with the memory of both joy and sorrow, met the alien's gaze, her own filled with a newfound clarity. Could it be? Could this being, this visitor from beyond the stars, truly grasp the depth and complexity of human emotion, of the very essence of what it meant to be alive, to love, to lose, to hope? The thought, at once terrifying and exhilarating, sent a shiver down her spine. The alien, as if sensing the shift in the woman's demeanor, turned its large black eyes upon her, its gaze intense yet strangely gentle. For the first time since its arrival, a flicker of something akin to understanding crossed its alien features. The humans, holding their breath, dared to hope, a fragile tendril of optimism winding its way through the fear and uncertainty that had gripped them since the alien's arrival. "Your species is flawed," the alien finally stated, its voice a low hum that seemed to vibrate in their very bones. "Yet, there is a spark within you, a glimmer of something more." It paused as if choosing its words carefully, its gaze sweeping over the expectant faces before it. "Perhaps you are not beyond redemption." A collective gasp, a sigh of relief, rippled through the crowd. The verdict, when it came, was not the damning indictment they had feared, but a hesitant acknowledgement, a glimmer of hope in the face of despair. The alien, it seemed, saw them, not just their failings, but also their potential, the flickering flame of their better nature struggling to survive in the darkness. "We have observed your wars," the alien continued, its voice still a low hum, but with a hint of something else in it now, a thread of sadness, regret. "Witnessed your capacity for both great cruelty and great compassion." It tilted its head, a gesture that seemed almost bird-like in its swiftness. "You are a paradox, a species capable of both unimaginable darkness and extraordinary light." The humans, humbled by the alien's words, by the realization that they were not so different, these beings from another world, from another time, looked at each other. A silent acknowledgement passing between them. They were flawed, yes, capable of terrible things, but they were also capable of love, of sacrifice, of kindness. The alien was right. They were a paradox, a species forever teetering on the brink, capable of both destroying themselves and reaching for the stars. "We came here seeking answers," the alien continued, its voice echoing strangely in the sudden stillness. "Seeking to understand the nature of your existence, the reason for your persistence." It turned its gaze back to the woman who had spoken of love, its large black eyes seeming to pierce through her, seeing not just her but the entirety of humanity reflected in her gaze. Perhaps the answer lies not in judgment but in understanding. "Understanding?" the woman echoed, the word catching in her throat, heavy with unspoken questions, with the weight of possibility. "We have seen your potential," the alien replied, its voice softer now, almost melancholy. "But we have also seen your capacity for self-destruction." It paused, its gaze lingering on the faces of the humans before it, each one a microcosm of the species' potential and its peril. "The choice is yours." And with that, the alien turned, its tall, slender form moving with a strange grace, and began to walk back towards the ship, its footsteps silent against the pavement, each step a beat in the heart of the stunned silence that gripped the square. The ramp, bathed in an eerie, otherworldly glow, shimmered, then began to retract, the metal folding in on itself until only a faint outline remained against the backdrop of the ship's smooth, impenetrable hull. The humans, still reeling from the encounter, watched as the ship, with a soft hum that seemed to reverberate deep within their bones, began to rise, slowly at first, then with increasing speed until it was nothing more than a shrinking silhouette against the vast canvas of the night sky. The stars, obscured by the ship's arrival, twinkled back into view, cold and indifferent witnesses to the extraordinary encounter that had just transpired.
The silence, when it finally broke, was shattered by a cacophony of sound, a wave of murmurs and gasps and excited chatter washing over the assembled crowd. Some, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty, turned and fled, eager to escape the unsettling memory of the alien encounter. Others, emboldened by the alien's words, by the glimmer of hope it had offered, lingered, their gazes drawn to the patch of sky where the ship had vanished, their hearts filled with a strange mix of awe, trepidation, and a newfound determination. The woman who had spoken of love stood silently, her gaze fixed on the point where the spaceship had disappeared, the alien's words echoing in her mind. "The choice is yours." She looked around at the faces of her fellow humans, at the fear, the hope, the uncertainty reflected in their eyes, and she knew that the alien was right. The choice was theirs. The future was theirs to shape. She took a deep breath, the cool night air filling her lungs, and felt a surge of something akin to hope. They were flawed, yes, but they were also capable of change, of growth, of love. They had been given a second chance, a reprieve from judgment, and it was up to them to prove themselves worthy. The journey would be long, fraught with challenges, but they would face it together as a species, united by their shared humanity, their shared vulnerability, and their shared hope for a brighter future. The aliens' visit had been a wake-up call, a stark reminder of their own mortality and the preciousness of the time they had left. And as the first rays of dawn painted the eastern sky with hues of pink and gold, chasing away the shadows of the night, the woman who had spoken of love turned and walked away from the empty square, her footsteps echoing with a newfound purpose, her heart filled with a fragile but persistent hope. The aliens had come, they had seen, they had judged, and in the end, they had left humanity with a choice.